Welcome to the Men Are Forged podcast, where we're building men for lasting success. I am your host, Cartwright Morris. Go to menareforged.com. Check out all that Men Are Forged has to offer. We offer coaching, courses, and content for the young professional man, any man. A lot of what I'm doing comes from things that I wish someone told me as a young professional or right out of college or even at the end of college. These little things that would have put me in a better headspace to take on life, take on a career, to get excited about my life. But I was just so lost and confused of which direction to take. Just needed someone next to me just kind of say, hey, how about doing this? Try this. Stop worrying about this, worry about this. So that's a lot of what I do. And so really one of the big things for me that really I wish someone told me was, how do I grow my earning potential? How do I step out of college and not be so dependent on whether or not I have a degree or that my degree actually sucks and it took me forever to get out of college, and actually make money that is fun and exciting and is different than, it's outside the box of what I think I'm supposed to do. Because what happens when we think we get so dependent on a degree, we go so dependent on the job, the 8 to 5, which I am very much a unstructured person. I'm discovering that more and more, that I feel so stressed, sucks the energy out of me when I have a hard schedule to follow. Just sucks the energy. And if you're anything like me, that's possibly not, maybe for a time, a season. I definitely learned that through a lot of failure, a lot of hard jobs that probably weren't as hard as I made it out to be, but I just didn't realize, it's like, oh man, I just not made for high structured environments. So I say that in the context of your career and your earning power, discovering and developing your earning power. Like, we live in such a great time right now in our ability to make money in just so many multiple ways. So I say that, and right now, as someone I highly recommend you checking out, going to myindestructiblewealth.com, check out Jack Gibson, join his waiting list for his next Essentials Mastermind. Jack has 14 streams of income. He has started and sold multiple companies. He is, only in his mid 40s. So, he's still early in life, but he's just done a lot. He is experienced. He's failed. He's read a lot of books on, cryptocurrency and different business books, and has also lived it. So I am currently taking the course, and it's changing my life. It's just exposing me into a whole new world of what's possible. And everything I'm learning right now in that course, I wish I knew 10, 15 years ago. I'm like, God, why didn't somebody just tell me what this is possible? Little things I could do right now to build wealth. So I recommend going to myindestructiblewealth.com. Check out Jack Gibson. Join his waiting list for his next course. He said he's probably going to do one in November, December, coming up soon. I'm in the middle of one right now. It's freaking changing my life. Highly recommend it. Anyway, and tell him I sent you. Now for this week's episode with Jeff Felten. Please rate and subscribe to the Men Are Forged podcast. Hope you enjoy. Well, I got Jeff Felten with me today. I'm excited about this topic. Man, we're going to kind of unpack adventure. Lives in Washington State right now. And Jeff, nice to have you.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, my first question, early on in life, who was kind of your big influences on, what defined adventure for you?
Adventure. Well, I grew up in really rural South Carolina, way in between two small towns is where I grew up. And so Adventure just looked a whole lot different. It's real flat out there, swampy. And I would say, we spent a good bit of time vacationing though. And, we didn't really go anywhere crazy. We had a camper that my whole family would pile in, and we'd drive a few hours to a state park or something like that. And so I guess, while I didn't really see incredible mountains until my mid to late 20s. But we always, growing up, we always kind of had a sense of escape, I guess, of, let's get away for the weekend, or let's make sure we're taking time off from work, and we're, I guess that kind of work play balance. We always kind of did that. And that's always, I've always maintained that if I don't get to play enough, I'm not feeling good. So,
yeah. Huh. That's interesting. So, yes, when you went in your 20s, had a little more freedom, have a little bit more of your own time. I mean, what were some of the, being that feeling of needing to get away to, kind of escape? What was some of the things that you did?
Yeah, well, again, I grew up in a really small town in Florence, and then I moved in South Carolina, and then I moved to a little bit bigger of a town. It's still a small town in South Carolina. Yeah. And so really, like, I don't know. It's just like when you grow up in a place like that, and you spend a lot of time in a place like that, you kind of like, you make your own fun and you do your own things. And so, there isn't a whole lot to see. There's really not a whole lot to do. If you want to go somewhere cool, it's hours and hours away. And so, I still like the things that I enjoy now are not necessarily the same things I enjoyed in my mid 20s. But, one of the things that's kind of been with me since high school was golf. I love to golf. And so, there are many days where, I'll get up and start working really early just so I can take off, sometime after lunch and go play around the golf or something.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. That's always kind of one of my escapes, and has been for a long time. So.
Yeah. And so growing up and even in your 20s, like, I mean, before even like, did you feel like that space, did that allow, growing up in a small town, that develop really a value for creativity, to expand, to risk, to take, to really that has affected your life even today?
I don't think so. I mean, okay. I think kind of the opposite. I think that like I didn't really know anything. Huh. I didn't know much growing up in a place like that, and even, and we can talk about this later, but, like I was so fixated on what I thought I wanted to do, and my options were so limited, what I knew was out there.
Yeah.
That like I ended up having like a quarter life crisis at one point, because like I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But like I remember when I was 24, 25 maybe, some buddies and I took a trip out west to California, and we flew into San Francisco, spent a couple of days there, then drove up 101 to Seattle. Mm-hmm. And that was my first real adventure where I saw like really magnificent things, where I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, I want to do more of this. The redwoods were like a big thing, the Pacific coast, like those kinds of things, where I was just like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this before.
Right.
And so that, I never really knew growing up in a small place like that. Like, we had our life and it was good. It was really, really good. But, I didn't really get out of the Southeast a whole lot. Mm-hmm. Just didn't really, know what was out there to be seen and to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting you said, because that was I had a similar, upbringing, Birmingham, Alabama, center of the universe kind of mindset. And then when you start experiencing and really exposing yourself to, different places, different experiences, and even people, how really maturity becomes inevitable. you really like, you expose yourself and you're like, oh, wow, there's so much more that I can explore, so much I can discover. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, unpack a little bit more of that, of just really how that experience then led to more, and really your growth as a man in general, as a person. So,
so I played baseball for a long time. I played baseball through high school and college, and that was my life for 17 years. It's what I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life. And I didn't really know that, you have to be like crazy, crazy good to make a career out of it. In my naivete, thought that, this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. And, by God, I'm good enough to do it. And I really wasn't, just to be quite frank. And so, I don't know, like when I left and went to college to play ball, like I had no backup plan. I had no idea of, what else I wanted to do or what else is out there. And, even all through college and after college, like I still didn't know. And so I would say that, oh gosh, I'm getting away from your initial question. What was the question again?
I mean, just, what out of experience in like the redwoods and experiencing that, what led to your kind of growth, maturity kind of thing? Today's episode is brought to you by Thrive Marriage Lab. If you want your marriage to thrive, this is a great opportunity to you, because strong marriages are the bedrock of strong churches, organization, families, and community. This is a 12-month pathway for any of you that are looking to really have weekly engagement with experienced marriage counselors, not just one, but many. So go to restory.life/thrive to get on the waiting list for this great program that starts in April. That's restory.life/thrive. And make sure you put the word Forge in the promo code to receive a discount on your monthly fee. Now, back to the episode.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah. I mean, did you just start feel like like the roof was taken off and now I can explore and enjoy all these different experiences, and what were kind of some of those experiences?
Sort of, yeah. It opened my eyes to what is out there and what I wanted to do. At the time I was still like, I was broke, man. I didn't really be able to do that kind of stuff. And so like, I just kind of, and I developed a mentality of, well, that's really cool and all, and I'd love to do it, but I can't afford it. So, we'll just kind of stick where we're at. And so,
right.
But it definitely opened up some new pathways in my mind, of what's possible, what's out there. The world's a whole lot bigger than my little tiny sphere. And, so I guess I've never really put together this timeline, but probably that happened when I was 24, 25. And, I think that a couple of years later, like I kind of just got tired of what I was doing and, knew there was a whole lot else out there, but I just didn't know what was out there for me. I didn't know what I could do or what I wanted to do. So, so I guess, in a way it did lead to some, I don't know, some maturity, some really, interesting times, I guess.
So you grew up in small town, South Carolina, really wanted to play baseball, and you played it in college, right? Is that what you said? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where'd you play in college?
The bench, but no, I played at Francis Marion University for 3 years. And I played for 3 years because I ended up having to get a job to pay for living expenses. I had, long story short, I had a big account of chunk of money that ran out pretty quickly. And so I had to get a job to pay for school and to pay for living expenses. And so I had to quit baseball because I didn't have time for both. But yeah, that was my dream. That was what I thought I was going to do for sure.
Yeah. Huh. Anything, I mean, I just think it's interesting. A lot of men, it's similar to me, having a dream in your mind building up as this is the end all be all. And when that dream is crushed, you know, generally there's disappointment, right? There's hurt, but sometimes like you kind of get to the bottom of that and then you realize, oh, what's that? Then it's got a springboard to something else. When did that, you feel like that happened? Like, all right, what then, you know?
Yeah. You know, it was a long time. Like I played baseball and, you know, I went to school I got like a really general business degree because I had no clue what else I wanted to do. I mean, I had no clue. Baseball was life. And, you know, and that's another thing too about the college experience was that, you know, when I grew up in a small town and, you know, I was one of the best players on the team and one of the first players ever from that high school to sign a college letter of intent to go play baseball somewhere. And so I came into college thinking that I was pretty darn good. And I got there with, you know, a bunch of other guys who had just come back from the College World Series. And, you know, I realized that I really wasn't that good. You know, I was middle of the pack at best. And so it was really, really humbling. And, you know, foolish me, I still didn't really, you know, put a whole lot of effort into thinking, what else do I enjoy? What else do I really want to do? I just kind of went with whatever was easy. And I didn't really, so I guess it's twofold. Like I didn't really put in the effort to think about what I wanted to do, but then I also didn't really have anybody trying to help me figure it out. You know, like it was just go get your degree because a degree matters. And that's, you know, you're going to be thankful you got it down the road and it'll get you a lot of places. But, you know, and I'm glad I did. School was not easy for me. I'm glad I did it. But I never really stopped to think about what I actually want to do. So I ended up with a really generic degree that, you know, doesn't mean much and never really pointed me in a direction, which I think is a pretty common thing. I think a lot of people do that just to get a degree and never figure out what they want to do. But yeah, you know, and that coupled with my experience in you know, growing up in a small place where it's really blue collar and, you know, the options that, you know, either are available or, you know, taught to you are just pretty limited. Like you just don't know what's out there. And so, so, you know, after school, that kind of, not knowingness, like I ended up taking a job with a friend to help him start a coffee shop, which was pretty cool. And I didn't, again, at this time, like, I didn't know any differently. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just said, okay, sure. That sounds really cool. Love to do that.
Right.
And that was the beginning of, that was the beginning of where I am now, but I was 23 at the time. And it was another 5 or 6 years after that before I really figured out, not even more than that, probably like 6 or 7, I think. Before I really figured out what I wanted to do. I remember sitting at the coffee shop one day and, you know, one of my friends was going to school to be a graphic designer and he was working on some stuff. And I remember looking at him and looking what he was doing and thinking, oh my gosh, like people can do that for a living.
Right. Yeah.
Like, so cool. Why didn't I know about stuff like this?
Yeah.
You know, I had to be an athlete or, you know, go work construction or, you know, if I don't want to do hard labor stuff like that, I could go be a doctor or, you know, just really things like that. Nobody ever told me you could be a graphic designer. So cool. Right. So, yeah, those kinds of things. I mean, it was after, you know, that experience in college, it was still quite a while of just really kind of trying to do things and just figure out what I enjoy. It took quite a while to get that figured out, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I feel there's a lot of different questions I'm sitting here thinking through because that's such a powerful moment. But yeah, so what would you tell that 23-year-old now? Now knowing what you know, what would you tell him?
Man, what would I tell him? I know what I wish I knew, but I don't know what I would tell him.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's so hard because like what I wish I knew is I just wish I knew what I enjoy doing. Like I never stop to think about what I, you know, what I enjoy. One of the things that I tell my clients a lot, and I'm passionate about with people is, like I hate the fact that people go to work and they hate what they do and they're miserable every day and it's just a job. I mean, if you got to spend 40, 50 hours a week doing something, you might as well love it.
Right.
And I'd never really stopped to figure out what that was. And that's what I wish I'd known was I guess, to stop and think, what do you really enjoy? What are you good at? What skills do you have that you can use?
Yeah.
And I don't, I guess it's one of those things, like, I don't know how to tell 23-year-old me that, because I don't know if 23-year-old me would have known what to do with that.
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know, basically.
Because 23-year-old me still loved baseball and probably to play golf. And so I would have said maybe, at 23 years old, I probably would have gone and tried to like be a pro golfer or something, which absolutely would not have happened. So I don't know. That's an interesting question. So
what led to the journey? I mean, really that's how did you go on the journey of figuring out what you enjoyed? Like what led to then you figuring that out?
So interestingly, so I started dating a girl in Birmingham, and she was.
I love those Birmingham girls,
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, dude. I do miss going to Birmingham and visiting her, because the food scene in Birmingham is incredible. I mean, the food in Birmingham is just nuts.
That's not been the normal, like what I grew up with, by the way. That's like been a last 10, 15 years thing. So
I mean, we still talk about the food in Birmingham all the time. Man, I wish we could go to El Barrio. I wish we could go to Fon Fon, right? I mean,
you're making me hungry. Dang.
Yeah. But so I started dating her, and she's in law school to become a lawyer, and meanwhile I'm working at a coffee shop, I was running the coffee shop. I won't sell myself short. I was running a coffee shop and working on starting a coffee roasting company. And so, shortly after she and I got together, I realized I just kind of got really burnt out with the coffee shop. The coffee shop was the ride of a lifetime. I loved it. But I was really exhausted and I didn't want to do it anymore. And, she said, well, that's fine. Like, that's cool if you don't want to do that anymore, but what do you want to do? And I didn't know. I had no clue.
Yeah.
And that's really, and she was saying, well, look, like we're, on track to, like, we're going to be getting married at some point. And like, I don't want you to just kind of be floundering around and, wandering from job to job and, whatever. So like, I don't really care what you do, but just pick something, like pick a path to go down instead of just meandering through life. And so, and that, like, that was my quarter life crisis. I think I was like 26, 27. And I was like so busted up over it. I mean, I was like, because I just didn't know. And I needed to do something because I didn't want to do this over here anymore. I had to do something and I had no clue what I wanted to do. And so the roasting company that I was starting out was a startup. It's not going to pay the bills, So I ended up taking a job at a local hospital and because we knew some people there, and it was a place just for me to get a stable job and figure things out. And so I took a job there, and honestly, like, that's where I did some really good thinking. And all I was doing all day was really like unpacking boxes and stocking shelves. And it gave me, like, I'd put my headphones in and listen to podcasts and listen to books. And it gave me a chance to do some really good thinking about, what do I actually enjoy? So what I did was, like, I just started thinking about the two things that I was doing, that I had done: the coffee shop and the coffee roasting company. And I wasn't crazy. Like, I wasn't super passionate about coffee. I liked it. I kind of geeked out about it, went all in on the culture, but it wasn't something I wanted to hang my hat on. Yeah. And, so then I thought, okay, well, what about those things do I enjoy? It's not necessarily about the coffee shop. I hated the 40 hours a week being in front of people, being a host. Don't like that. But what I kind of the conclusion I came to is that the thing that I really loved about both of those was the building of the brand, the actual, like, you know, constructing of the brand, getting it out in the public, and getting, you know, people bought into the brand with me on the journey. We did a phenomenal job of that with the coffee shop. We went to a place where there had been several failed attempts at a coffee shop in the past 5 or 6 years. And we started a successful coffee shop that's still standing, which, you know, was something that we were really, really proud of.
Yeah.
And the brand building of that aspect is what I really loved. And so that made me go, okay, cool. All right. So I enjoyed that. How can I do more of that? And that was, you know, it kind of led me to marketing. I, you know, made some connections with people. I reached out to people who were in marketing and just said, hey, you know, this is something I really want to get into. I want to learn more about. Can I pick your brain and, you know, figure out what to do? And I remember specifically having a conversation with an agency owner in Charlotte. And, you know, he just in our conversation, he said, you know, it sounds like you like copywriting is kind of your thing. And so I said, great. I love to write. I was a writer when I was younger. I wrote for high school newspapers and stuff like that. I journal all the time. Writing is my jam. So that sounds perfect. I'm going to figure out how to become a copywriter. And so that led me to Story Brand, building a story brand by Donald Miller.
Yeah.
So then I got certified with Story Brand. And that was really kind of the launching pad for doing what I do now. What eventually allowed me to be able to leave that hospital job I had and start actually doing something that fills me up every day. So it was a winding journey of, I don't know, just trying to figure things out.
Yeah. And so eventually that did lead to, I mean, where you are now, which did you end up marrying that girl, by the way?
I did. Yeah, I did. Okay. We're married. We've got our first little girl on the way. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. We're happily married here in Washington. So
yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so did that lead? So once you kind of figure out what you're passionate about, enjoying branding, marketing, where has that led you to now? I mean, has that led to different one, you know, from an experience standpoint, but also just places, you know, and things that you've done? Yeah,
totally. Well, you know, one of the other things that I, you know, determined, you know, around that same time where I was figuring things out is that I wanted to do something that would give me freedom, because freedom is just such a big deal to me. It's it's like I have to feel free. You know, if I feel I've never, even when I was still kind of, you know, in college and trying to figure things out, I knew that I did not want to go work in some corporate office somewhere doing something stuffy. I knew then that I wanted to also be free. To kind of come and go as I please. Should I say that again? Because the little.
Oh, you're good. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I knew that I wanted to be free. I knew that I wanted to the freedom to come and go as I please, to make my own hours, to make as much money as I wanted to, and not be bound to what somebody else, you know, tells me. Which, you know, I guess could be a good thing and a bad thing, but. You know, and that kind of goes back to the whole play thing. You know, I wanted the freedom to be able to go play. And so one of the reasons that I chose to get into what I do is because it does give me that freedom. It, you know, I choose my own schedule. So I a lot of days I get up at 6 a.m. and start working, or I get up at 5 and start working at 6. Just so I can be done earlier because I like afternoons. Yeah. But it also, like, it gives me, you know, one of the reasons I chose it is because it gives me the freedom to pick up and move across the country if I want to, and still have a
Yeah, right.
Which I did. Yeah. And so, I mean, to me, like, I don't know, like, it's not worth, a job is not worth giving up freedom. And I know that's not true for everybody. But, you know, it's just so important to me to be able to, you know, to choose what happens. Right. What I do. So
that is such a powerful thing, because I mean, I was kind of like you. We're not really educated in that belief. Like, I was talking about somebody, really trying to develop our earning potential. And that just thought process, I was like, man, that was like, for so long, your earning potential was directly related to your degree in school. And that was it. And your ability to work a job from 8 to 5. That was like your earning potential was completely limited by that. But when you hear the word freedom, it's like, this is America, isn't it? Is this not that we don't have all these different, from, social media, technology to the ability where we can work our own hours and create a job that still does serve people, but also gives me the opportunity to make money and provide my family and enjoy the things I enjoy and live where I want to live.
Yeah. One of those old sayings about entrepreneurship, my dad actually said this to me when I was starting one of my businesses. And now in hindsight, I don't know that I agree with it, but he said that, we as entrepreneurs, we work 18 hours a day for ourselves, so we don't have to work 8 hours for somebody else. And, on one hand, like I get it, but I also I've been very intentional in the last couple of years with my own business about not doing that, not allowing that, and setting boundaries that, Cartwright, honestly, I get burnt out really, really easily. And I know that about myself now. Mm-hmm. Like I'm very aware. So I have to make sure that, pretty frequently we're taking cool little weekend hikes, up to places that are really majestic, because I need that. I need to feel like I'm getting away. I need to regularly take an afternoon off, work hard. I'm a big believer in work hard, play hard. I'll work really, really hard and burn myself out, but I need to make sure that I've got these, things in place that to keep me from getting burnt out, because I've experienced some of that too, where get super excited about the marketing stuff I'm doing and the clients I'm working with. Only to get burnt out and not really know, and kind of be back in the same boat of I don't really want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Crap, what am I supposed to do? And so, I have to kind of, that freedom and that sense of adventure has to be kind of intertwined with what I do, because I can't be all work and no play. I just can't.
Yeah. There's something about, that you have to do things that bring you energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point of prioritizing fun, adventure, play, getting outside, finding things that you love outside of just work. So what would you say? How do you, one, it sounds like you schedule it. That's how you prioritize fun event. You schedule it. I'm going to work till this time. I'm going to get up earlier so I can do, play golf at this time. What are some other things that help you prioritize fun, adventure, play?
Yeah, scheduling is a big thing, especially when you're married and she's on a schedule and she's a very organized person. So when we take a weekend away, we gotta kind of have to schedule it and just make sure we put it on the books, or else it's not going to happen.
Right.
But as far as my personal work life and schedule is, I also have to allow room for spontaneity for myself. So. If there was, a matter of fact, there was a day a couple of weeks ago where, it wasn't I didn't get up early. I started working at 7:30 like normal. And I just, by 10:30, 11 o'clock, I was just zapped. I just could not think. I was trying to write something and just could not get the juices going. I couldn't figure it out. I was looking at that blinking cursor and so I was like, you know what? Instead of just trying to force it today, just take the day. You could, I could sit here for another 4 or 5 hours and try to force it and just hate the rest of the day. Or I could take the rest of the day and give myself that freedom, allow myself to have that freedom, and then come in hot tomorrow, which is exactly what happened, And so, I think that, part of it is scheduling. Part of it's just, kind of learning to read yourself and, allow for that spontaneity and listen to your mind, listen to your body. There are definitely days where I work 10, 11, sometimes 12 hours, but then there are days where I work 3 or 4 hours, and I need that. I need that kind of, that kind of, I don't know what you call it, I guess, variety.
Yeah. Variety, unstructured in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely in the same way. Like, I took it was like a career assessment test. And it's like, they had like structured here and then unstructured work environment. And I was like all the way over here.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, I love change. I love doing different things. I don't like having the same day. But I had a thought with that. It was interesting what you said. But like that. And I think what for me, it was like, I could feel like a 50-pound weight would be on my back when I would be working, because I would try to push through that of, like you were saying, like, and what I was doing, I thought I was comparing work to somebody else's definition of work. Mm-hmm. I had to do work according to what they said, versus giving myself permission to, like, I could work 2 hours today and then I'll just kick butt tomorrow and miss what I missed. And I think that's really cool. Was there anybody in your life you feel like you just kind of put their arm around you figuratively and said, like, hey, you don't have to do it like this, you could do it like this? Or was that just more self-taught?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I was so the Story Brand community was great. That was going to get certified as a Story Brand guide was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. The community there was great. I learned a ton. But just, as I learned more about, I guess as I became a better entrepreneur, just from reading books and, reading articles and listening to people and just kind of staying in touch with my community, like I've learned how to build, and I'm not saying in any way that I've arrived, but, I've learned how to build those kind of things into my structure, into my days, and how to build a business that serves me instead of me serving my business. And so, how
about that? That's big.
Yeah. And again, that's important. I don't want to be the kind of entrepreneur that's just burning both ends of the candles and, struggling to make, like I wanted, and this is something I didn't know I could do growing up, is that I wanted to offer a service that has good margins, just to be frank, like, so that I don't have to, if I want to make really good money, I don't have to work 60, 70 hours a week. Like, that's important to me. Like I, for the first time in my life, I want to make good money. Like I feel okay with that. I don't feel like it's wrong to want to make good money. And but I also, like, I don't want to burn both ends of the candle to do it. I would love to make the kind of money I want to make in 30 to 40 hours a week. And it's possible. And so that's just having that thought of, that's possible. I can do that. Ooh, I really want to do that. Now let me figure out how to do it. That's kind of a new thing for me. So,
that is so cool. That's just you almost had to rewire yourself in your thinking process.
I remember, when early on in my relationship with my wife, we were having a conversation about money and the future. And I remember saying, if I could make it to about 40, 50,000 a year, like I'd be set, like I'd be pretty good. And she was like, dude, I'm going to need you to make a little bit more than that, and at the time, like I had a weird hang up about making money. And, I didn't know that, that was like, I don't know. I felt weird about making a lot of money. And, it took me, I still deal with that. I still have a hard time with that at times, but like now, like I've realized as I, want to adventure more and play more golf, and I want to go on crazy trips to, more like national parks around the country. And like we really want to go to Banff. It's like 6 hours away, and we're like kicking ourselves that we haven't been able to go yet.
Right. Yeah.
But, I want to be able to do these things. We love, my wife and I love good food. We love going to good restaurants and eating like really good food and good drink. And I want to be able to do that stuff. And it costs money, and so now, like, I'm kind of like saying, oh, okay, like, well, like, I'm not wanting to make money just to, so I can be rich and, like
Yeah.
stupid and, irresponsible and flaunted. Like, I want to make money because I want to see the world. Like, I want to see these things. And you have to have money to do that. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Huh. That's
yeah.
that's kind of a very similar journey of like, man, there's all these things I want to do, and I want to do with, the person I care about. So what do I got to do to get there? Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, really, probably maybe my last question really is like, being a Southeastern guy, what's so great about living out in the coast, out in Spokane?
Yeah. We're actually, so it's technically, we're not in the Pacific Northwest. We're in the inland Northwest. Um, I
Less
still
rain. Is that what that means?
totally a whole lot of rain. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
We actually had a very, very dry summer. It probably didn't rain for 2 or 3 months. But yeah, what I really love about being out here, and I talk to people all the time about this back home, is the weather here is just incredible. It got a little toasty this summer. We had the heat dome. And so it got a little toasty this summer, but when it was 100 degrees here during the day, it's nothing like 95 and humid in Carolina. I mean, it's not even on the same planet. It's so much different.
Dry heat is so much better than humid heat. You can get away from the shade.
Yeah. And what I learned, so we got here in February. What I learned that dry cold is way different too. And so when we were driving across the country,
not a bite. Yeah.
When we were driving across the country in February, which, by the way, I'd recommend to anybody. It's like the coolest experience. Our first stop, this was in February. Our first stop was actually in Birmingham, and it was 30 degrees that night, and it was bone chilling cold. I mean, it was like bundled up, and you're still cold. 2 days later, we were in Colorado Springs, and it was 20 degrees. And it felt very comparable, if not better, And I just remember thinking, dude, like, this is totally different. And then so we get to Spokane, and a few days later, and it's probably in 20s, 30s here, and it was, you wear the right clothes and you're fine, you're comfortable. Then, gosh, I remember the first days that it hit like 45 or 50 degrees here, and people are out in running on the sidewalks in shorts and t-shirts. It's just it hits totally different.
It does. Yeah.
So I love the weather here. It's so nice. Right now it's about 70 during the day and gets down to about 45 at night. And so you can just kind of open up the windows at night, let the place cool down, and then it heats back up the day to perfect time. It's so nice. Yeah. But then, the other thing I love about being out here is that we're just like an hour or two from so many epic things. Idaho is right there, and it's just gorgeous. We're a few hours from Glacier National Park, 6 or 7 hours from the coast, close to Seattle, close to Rainier. Like, there's just so many things within the Cascades. There's just so many things.
Yeah.
With flowers, and that really kind of keeps me, that adventurous side of me, busy, where like I'm always like, all right, what cool hike can we go do this weekend? When's our next backpacking trip? That kind of stuff. So something to be thinking about. Like that.
Oh man, that's so cool. Just to have that option.
Yeah.
And then plan it, right? And then like say, hey, I'm gonna go do it. So
that's one of the reasons we moved out here, was to we wanted to be closer to that kind of stuff. I think, even like flights to California, if we wanted to go back to Yosemite or Big Sur or something, they're cheaper, Hawaii, the flights out here to Hawaii are dirt cheap, So like, we just like, I like that we're so close to a lot of the things that we enjoy. We're so much closer, within a day's drive or two. So.
Yeah. And have you found a community that you can do that with, or is it generally just you and your wife kind of like, no, we're going to go do this?
Yeah, totally. Well, we've got some friends here that, we actually met ironically through a mutual friend in Birmingham.
Oh, that's cool.
that we connected with, and
all roads lead back to Birmingham, right?
as long as they lead back to the food in Birmingham, we're good.
That's true. That's
true. Sauce, that's another one that
white barbecue sauce. Yeah.
Actually, when we stopped in Birmingham in February, we ate at Saw's and bought a bottle of sauce to bring here with us.
Yeah, good idea. That's the thing that the West doesn't have. They don't have barbecue. They just don't have that. That's
true. Yeah. And I would argue, my wife, I think, is pretty convinced that the food in the Southeast is better than the food out here. The verdict's still out for me because, like I said, we've only been here 6 months, and so there's still a whole lot more to explore. But so I'm not ready to give up on the Northwest yet on the food scene here, but definitely the food in the Southeast is it's so good.
Oh man. Well, yeah, I mean, so Jeff, man, where can people find you? What's maybe some content you'd love for my audience to know about?
Yeah. So, what I do now is primarily email marketing. I help small business owners. I help them build and execute email strategies for their businesses. Really, because, email marketing it's super effective. It's way more effective than social media.
Yeah.
You don't own your social audience, right? But you own an email list forever. And so it's much more effective. So that's why I do it. I help small business owners build and execute email strategies that help them build their army of raving fans. And so I've got some resources. If you head over to contentremedy.co, I've got some free resources for you over there, a monthly email planner, some email templates, all kinds of stuff. So,
man. Yeah. I've actually joined your list, and it's been great. Really interesting stuff. So, but thanks for coming on, Jeff. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Thanks for listening to Mentor Forge podcast. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please rate, review, subscribe to the Mentor Forge podcast on Apple and Spotify. Also, check out mentorforge.com for coaching courses and content. Thanks for listening.